It is my pleasure to introduce the Congressman-elect for West Virginia's 2nd District, Raleigh Moore. You, as a publicly elected official since 2016, Congressman Moore's bio is pretty accessible to everyone. I'd like to provide some context. In 2016, when he came to the West Virginia Capitol as a freshman delegate for the House of Delegates, he'd already had at least 2 careers. He was a welder, and then got his undergraduate degree at George Mason University, and a master's degree at something called the National Defense University, which meant that he was a prime candidate to serve on the Congressional Committee for Foreign Affairs. And you know his background influenced his initial actions in the House of Delegates because on the first day he was already reviewing the budget and the state's financials. He was immediately tapped for leadership as Assistant Majority Whip. For those of you who don't have to spend a lot of time in the Capitol, that meant he's responsible for counting noses, finding votes, and making sure that the leadership of the House of Delegates is able to deliver on what the electeds have promised. And from there, he was the Majority Leader-elect. In his first year, I believe it was 24 bills he sponsored that passed. These numbers are crazy. But not satisfied with that, he became a statewide elected official, West Virginia's 25th treasurer, and immediately set about in reforming that office and making it transparent. And then he came up with what has to be one of the most genius economic development ideas I've ever heard of. It's called Jumpstart. And this takes all of the influence that he's had in all of his careers, from being a welder to being a legislator. He invented a program where you can put in money to invest in yourself, and when you finish your trades education, you have the ability to invest in your own business. So it is my distinct pleasure to welcome our newest congressman for the state of West Virginia, establishing our proud history of sending great talent to Washington, D.C., Congressman Raleigh Moore.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Now, does this mic go on? Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Kelly, thank you so much for that great introduction. I really appreciate it. And I started working with you right when I first stepped foot into the Capitol, and mentioned me counting votes. I'm still doing that for a living. But it is a really honor and a privilege to be able to serve as the next congressman from the 2nd Congressional District. And I think we got a lot of exciting things to come. Before I get into my prepared remarks, though, and there's a lot of you here that when I first stepped foot in that Capitol building over there, our beautiful state Capitol I've worked with, and yeah, when Kelly, Danielle Waltz back there, Conrad, the distinguished Conrad there. You represent the governor, you're not wearing a tie, man? But no, thank you all so very much. And as I said, I'm still counting votes. I will give you just a little brief update on kind of what's already been going on in Washington. I'm happy to report back to all of you as the freshman class went through their elections, and you elect different individuals to different roles within the structure of the U.S. House of Representatives. In the Republican conference, there's steering representative, a freshman class president, and then a rep for the policy committee. But then there's one position for a freshman member to be elected to House leadership. And I'm happy to report to you all that I have won that election to be in House leadership. Thank you very much. And I think we're going to be able to leverage that to do a lot of things. And we ran a good election for that, won. Of course, I'm narrowly focused on winning that. And you get out of the room after you win, and one of these reporters said, Congressman-elect Moore, how's it feel to be in House leadership? I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I am. I didn't tell her that. I was like, well, this is an honor, and da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, just stay tuned. They're going to populate the committees Friday and Monday, so we're going to figure out what committee I'm going to be on. It's no secret I'm making a very strong push to be on the House Appropriations Committee, and I hoping and praying here we can get our representation back on the Appropriations Committee in the House. Obviously, we have Shelley in the Senate, but we're losing an appropriator in Senator Joe Manchin on the Senate side, so I'm hoping we're able to cover both sides there, which would be great for our state, and obviously he'll be missed over there on that committee. He's done a lot of good work for the state of West Virginia on that committee. Speaking of which, we got Mara Boggs back there. Hey, Mara, from Senator Joe Manchin's office, and thank you for all your help. We've been working with Senator Manchin's office on some of our transition. We're actually taking a couple of their caseworkers. Thank you, Joe. And I think, as you all know, he had a top-notch constituent service, which we are going to hopefully step right back into that role and fulfill a lot of that casework that needs to get done. I think I might be walking into a little bit of a backlog, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out here after January 3rd. But in any event, look, it's great to be with you all this afternoon, and it's good to be with so many familiar faces. And this kind of new face for me. I've been reading so much. I started here, I didn't even wear glasses. Now I got to wear glasses to read. It's crazy, just wearing me out. But first things are first. Thank you to Amelia and the rest of the Education Alliance for inviting me. The topics for today are near and dear to my heart as a native West Virginian who has chosen to raise my family here and dedicate myself to public service. Why am I optimistic about West Virginia's future? Well, there's no shortage of presentations similar to this one that explains our state's geographic advantages, abundant natural resources, and improving business climate. All of those things are true. They are reasons for optimism, but my answer to this question runs a little deeper. I'm optimistic about West Virginia's future because of our people. Serving as state treasurer and running a successful campaign for Congress has given me an opportunity to meet with such a wide variety of people from many walks of life from around our state. West Virginia is home to the most hardworking, honest, patriotic, and faithful people in the world. And I truly believe that. Just as an aside, we just had our state treasurer's last Christmas party for me. And, I don't mind telling you all this. I got choked up at it. I really did, leaving all these great people down here in Charleston. Now I got to go deal with all these maniacs in Washington. But in any event, it really is a fact of the matter, though, that we do have the best people in the world. Those virtues equip our people to carry on through difficulties and turn dreams into reality when the opportunity presents itself. Let me give you a concrete example. During my travels across the state, I've gotten to know the steel workers in Weirton, West Virginia. That's where Danielle's from. These men and women are the heirs of multi-generational tradition of steel manufacturing in West Virginia's northern panhandle, which is where my family's from. The values of a steel mill have defined the values of that community for decades. We're talking about a salt-of-the-earth people who put in an honest day's work for an honest day's pay and are happy to do so. Earlier this year, these people were abandoned by their government, their federal government, when the International Trade Commission neglected their duty to intervene against subsidized Chinese steel being dumped into the marketplace here in the United States. These nearly 1,000 families saw their livelihoods in jeopardy. The promise of good wages, quality benefits, and a dignified retirement was called into question. How did these West Virginia steelworkers respond to some of the most devastating news a family can receive. They got back to work by forging a new path forward for their families, their plant, and our state's manufacturing tradition. Leaders from business, labor, and government came together, and we struck a deal to convert that tin plate steel manufacturing facility into an electrical steel plant where they're going to make transformers, which if you are in construction, you know are in a backlog right now all over the United States. So we identified that need for transformers, and West Virginia is going to build them. In Weirton, West Virginia, is stepping up to solve a problem, but it's also not a problem just for us, it's a national concern. A huge majority of electrical transformers deployed in the United States are currently manufactured overseas. We've even seen dependent on some of our nation's adversaries for critical infrastructure components. If I had more time, I could say the same about a whole host of manufacturing products here in West Virginia: pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, military hardware, industrial inputs, automobiles, the list goes on. Why does this make me hopeful about West Virginia? We are better positioned than any other state to step up to the plate as it relates to reshoring our manufacturing in the United States. Our people have always been first in line to answer the call to serve this great nation. Our people have always been the first in line to answer that call. You can see it in how we lead the nation in the rates of military service here in West Virginia. And we got Greg Hoyer back here. We always remember General Hoyer, right? Is a great example of that. And you can see it in how people lead in our military service. And I believe in my heart of hearts that West Virginians will be on the leading edge of answering the call to serve America's course correction toward economic independence and renewal. And I think in short, you could say, with this new congressional majority in the House and Senate and the White House, that the era of economic surrender in this country is over. You may be asking yourself what role a group of business and education leaders like the Education Alliance plays in putting West Virginia at the forefront of this new American golden age. Our nation needs your help in equipping the next generation of Americans for the skilled workforce this economic realignment will require. Factories don't build themselves. Pipelines don't grow underground, unfortunately. Planes don't weld themselves together. It all takes skilled labor. And that takes coordination between business and schools. You can already see the foundation of a strong cooperative workforce development system as it relates to higher education. Marshall and West Virginia University at Parkersburg are partnering with Nucor Steel to connect West Virginia students with the skills needed for a successful career. Toyota, who's here today, has been a long leader in partnering with community and technical schools. Fairmont State and Pierpont have mobilized to support the growing aerospace industry in north central West Virginia. These are models on how business and the education community can cooperate to realize the American dream right here in West Virginia for a new generation. When you leave here today, I want you to think about the growing trend in favor of career technical education at the middle and high school levels. How can we aim those programs at a true workforce readiness? How can we and how can business change their relationship with our local school districts to clearly communicate their workforce needs? How can schools be proactive in responding to those needs and position those students for success? When I think about my own educational and professional journey, as Kelly touched on, I can't help but think of my own story as a little bit unusual for somebody headed to Congress. I've actually thought about starting a welders caucus. I think I'd be the only one in it. When I graduated from high school, I went to trade school and I became a welder. I went to work on a variety of job sites, mining operation, and I went on to know a lot of blue-collar workers really in a true sense. I worked in defense manufacturing, steel structural, a lot of different vocations in that trade. And to that point, this wasn't a field trip to see a blue-collar work site. And I sweat and I bled and built things with the same salt-of-the-earth people that I've been describing. And it was extremely rewarding work, and I loved it. To tell you the truth, I wish I was stuck with it. I'd be making more money than I am right now. But state treasurer doesn't make as much as a guy working on a pipeline. Eventually, my life went in a different direction. I did decide to attend college. And a little aside story, that was from a lot of pressure from a Governor Moore to go to college. So during that process, I remember an admissions representative looking at my college application and seeing that I had gone to a trade school after high school graduation and asking me what happened. Now that's a question that just drove me nuts. It was this something bad had to happen in my life for me to have chosen trade school. Like something happened. Why did you go to trade school? And I'll be blunt, I think that's just wrong. It's a bad mindset. It's a mindset that will hinder our nation's prosperity moving into the future, and it will hurt kids who could find a lot of fulfillment in the trades. We have a duty to our country and our kids to nurture the ambitions of blue-collar work. During my welding career, I strongly considered going out on my own as a freelance welder, and it wasn't too long before I realized how expensive that endeavor was going to be. I'd have to buy all my own tools, my own equipment, truck, all of those startup costs. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars up front to be able to do that. So I never forgot that, and it's through those experiences that, and as Kelly mentioned, and thank you for mentioning this program, I worked with the legislature to create the first of its kind in the nation, the Jump Start Savings Program, to allow those interested in the trades to save for startup costs. So that's literally through my own experience how I came up with that program to help a younger version of me realize my dream. So both contributions to and expenditures from a Jump Start account are deductible from your state income taxes. So as money goes in, you can deduct it from your federally adjusted gross income, and as the money goes out, you can deduct that too. So if you made $50,000 in a year, and you put in, say, $25,000 into the account, you can adjust down to $25,000 for your annual tax liability, for example. Now, with this program, West Virginia is leading the country in providing the same tax benefits for trades and vocations as we do for a college pathway. And that was really the idea of this, is to put these things on an even playing field. When I've promoted the Jump Start program here in West Virginia, I have visited a lot of high school, career, and technical programs. They're genuinely impressive people. One young woman I met at a trade school visit in Morgantown was the top of her class in welding, and she was a lot better than me. She was a really good welder. Now, after my remarks to the student body, she did everything we tell teenagers they should do to advance their own career goals. She walked right up, shook my hand, and asked for advice about going into the welding field. That confidence came from her success in the welding program. She'd had real-world experience doing real work in competition with her peers from across the state and the nation. I'd encourage everyone here, if you've ever had the opportunity, to meet students involved in that program, I would take advantage of it from any of our schools across the state of West Virginia. They're the skilled workers of the future, and they'll make you proud to be a West Virginian. They really will. I want to thank all of you for your investment in the West Virginia schools. When I look at West Virginia's future, I see the investment paying off. I really do. Working together, I know we can build a future that is worthy of our dreams and our children's future. Thank you all so much. God bless you. Oh, I get a present. Look at that.
Thank you, Congressman.
Oh, I forgot to tell one more thing.
Okay.
Y'all don't be a stranger, too. If you come to D.C. and I find out you were there and you didn't come visit me, I'm going to be upset. So please, come see me. We only got 2 members of Congress. Carol and I are going to be working together very closely, north, south. It doesn't matter. We're all West Virginians. So just let me know anything I can do to help. Thank you.